Hi students, this is Tanvi from Oliveboard and I welcome you all for your previous year question topic series. So today I'm going to discuss a very important question from your reasoning section, which is from your critical reasoning, because you people cover your puzzles and your logical reasoning, okay? But you are always scared with the portion of critical reasoning where you have assumptions, course of action, cause and effect. So all these things are covered here, okay? So this is what we are going to discuss today, and this is also one of the most important question in your reasoning part. Okay, so before starting the session, we pledge for your success. So let us start solving this. Now here is the first question. Now the passage given below is followed by three statements. Choose the one which can be the correct assumptions on which the passage is based. Now first we need to understand that what is the meaning of the word assumptions. Now assumption means something that we suppose. Okay, assumption is something that we people suppose. Right. So assumption, if it is something that we suppose, so what we are going to consider here, that we have some information, we have to read and understand this, and when we are going to read this, what we are going to think, that what the speaker thought before saying all this. Okay, what was the speaker's opinion before saying all this. Okay, so this is what assumptions is. So if I read out the whole paragraph, like what I have to do, I'll have to read the whole paragraph and understand this. Okay, so ideally what should be done whenever you are going to solve any equation of your critical reasoning, whether it is assumption or conclusion or course of action or cause and effect or argument, be very clear that you should solve it like a balanced person, because these questions will be solved just with your opinion, and opinion is something that matters person to that vary person to person. Okay, so that's why whenever you're going to solve any of these topics of critical reasoning, be very clear that you should be an ideal person. You should be thinking like an ideal person. You should not be very practical and you should not be very negative. Okay, so you should be a balanced person to solve such question. So the information here is that entire field of study is devoted to, okay, entire field of study is devoted to biomimetics, and this can also be termed as biomimicry. Now what is the meaning of this word biomimetics? Actually this is just a mimicry of living organisms, how they live. Like we learn from nature. Okay, we people learn from nature. Some problems that we human face, okay, that can be solved by looking at the patterns of nature, by looking at the pattern of living organisms, how they live. Okay, so this is what is going to be covered in biomimicry. So next line is that having evolved over millennia, living organisms, now living organisms, he is saying, okay, present beautiful and sometimes complex designs that are integral to their lives. Okay, so we learn a lot from living organisms. And humans, what have humans done? Now living organisms, he mean to say that these are those organisms, those present beautiful and sometimes complex designs, and we people observe that, humans observe that, and they have learned to emulate those designs for their own purposes. Okay, so I'll give you an example for this, which is there in the question also. Design engineering of buildings. There now, as you all know, some like there are some buildings being made by our engineers that are cool inside even if the weather is hot outside. Okay, so this concept they learned from termite. Okay, so design engineering of buildings that stay cool on the inside despite soaring temperatures outside. They are inspired by the structure and ventilation of termite. Okay, so by looking at the structure and ventilation of termite, they understood that what should be done to make a building cool from inside when the temperature is very hot outside. Okay, so this is the whole information here. So what should be the correct assumption? So best way to solve such questions is minimizing the options, because sometimes what we do, we are always confused between two options. Okay, so to avoid that thing, it is always better to see what is wrong instead of what is right. So the first one is that living organism, let's study the first one. Living organisms create beautiful and sometimes complex designs for humans to copy. Okay, they are making, no doubt they are making beautiful and sometimes complex designs, but their purpose is not that humans, like what he is saying, that they make this, they create this for humans to copy. Okay, so they are not making this with this motive that humans are going to copy, first thing. Okay, second thing that we understand here is humans are not copying them. Humans are just trying to understand. Humans are just trying to understand. Okay, so the first assumption is wrong, because humans are not copying that pattern, they are just learning what all cannot be solved by humans, they are just learning that pattern. Okay, so the first assumption is definitely wrong. Second one says that humans have evolved by copying. Now again he is saying the same thing, humans have evolved by copying from other living organisms and being able to find successful solutions. Okay, now this is not the primary thing. Humans definitely study their patterns, but it is not that humans have evolved by copying. Okay, so just because of this line, humans have evolved by copying, just because of the statement, the second one is also wrong. Okay, so we are left just one option, and that should be correct, but we are still going to check it out. Okay, because we always, one thing that we have to do is minimizing the options. Second thing that we have to do, we have to choose the best. Okay, so two assumptions are wrong. Logically, if I see, these two are wrong. And third one says that humans have cognitive ability to get inspired. So this is the right word. It should not be copying. It should be inspired. Okay, inspired from the designs made by other organisms. Okay, so just because of this word inspired and cognitive ability means, this means something they understand. Okay, they have ability to understand. Okay, to get inspired. So this is the correct word that has been used, because we always solve such questions in a logical way. Okay, in a way that we think like an ideal person. So according to that, our third assumption is correct, and hence here are your options, where answer will be option number 5, which says only 3. Okay, so one more thing you people could do, I have to show the question in 2 slides. Okay, just because of lack of space. Now as you all see, the question is very long, right? So you can also take help from the options. Now just because first and second one wrong, okay, so these options are also going to help you sometimes. Okay, right. So here we are not getting option 1, 2 and 3. So we are sure that combination is not possible. But although there was not a major problem in this question, right? This question could be solved easily, but it was just that if you were not knowing the word of this, if you were not knowing the meaning of this word, this could have created problem. Okay, so now let's come on to the next question. I hope this is clear. Now next question is about course of action. Now what is a course of action? Course of action means something that you do to avoid some problem. So whenever we are going to solve any course of action, so what we are going to check? A course of action will be valid only if such action is immediately taken. Such action should not be harmful. Okay, so these are some things that you have to follow while validating any course of action. So let's read the information first. Now statement says our economy, people's health and mental anxiety will continue until the vaccination program is completed. Now that's true. Now this we can relate. This is very easy for us to understand because we have gone through the scenario. Okay, problem arises when you are going to excuse me. Problem arises when you are going to face any question which is out of your reach. Like in the previous question, if you were not knowing the word biomimicry, this could have created problem. Or sometimes you have economy based question, and there many students who are not from economics background, they feel it difficult to solve. Okay, so how we are going to handle that? So in the second question, our economy, people's health and mental anxiety will continue until the vaccination program is completed. Okay, we should aim to finish the vaccination in 6 months instead of 2 years. So this suggests that 2 years is the proposal, but he's saying we should complete it early. We should complete it in just 6 months because this is creating anxiety in people. Okay, next is that for this we need to increase the current pace to 4 times the current levels. Okay, or to 8 crore doses a week. Means in a week we should be giving 8 crore doses. Okay, so this is the whole information. So the main problem, now whenever we are going to solve course of action, we have to look for the problem in the statement. Now the main problem in the statement is that the delay in the vaccination is causing mental anxiety and it is affecting people's health, also our economy. Okay, so these are the main problems here. So let's check the valid course of action. Now this could also be the case that all are correct. Okay, so the first action is securing the supply of the vaccines from the indigenous suppliers and stop exporting vaccines. Is this going to solve the problem? Now what I have to look here is that is it going to solve your problem? So the first one says securing the supply of the vaccines from the indigenous suppliers. Okay, so that's true. This should be done because this is definitely going to solve the problem mentioned in the statement, and stop exporting vaccines. So the first course of action is valid. Okay, so this first one is correct. Next one says approve more vaccines from around the world and have more manufacturing facilities to increase the availability of the vaccine. Now this is also correct because this is also suggesting the increase in the supply of vaccines, and if there is increase in supply of vaccines, it is definitely going to increase the speed. Okay, next is that every private hospital, dispensary and healthcare center should be allowed to administer the vaccine in order to increase the vaccinators. So if you see, this is also correct. All these three actions are actually solving the problem mentioned in the statement. So here let's see what are the options. So we do have all three correct in option number 4, and hence your answer will be all 1, 2 and 3 follows. So this should be your answer. Okay. So now let's move on to the next question. Now this is the question which I was saying, like sometimes you get economy based question. Although if you're preparing for RBI Grade B examination, okay, you people must be knowing all this, right? It should not be an alien subject for you. Economy should not be an alien subject for you. It is not supposed to be, right? But still, some students face problem in solving these questions. So what we are going to do, I'll explain this question to you if you are also not from the economy background. Okay, if you are not so much familiar with the subject economics, according to that scenario, I'm going to discuss this question. Although this is not acceptable for RBI Grade B aspirant, that you're not familiar with economics, right? This is not acceptable. But still, let's solve this in a way convenient for all the students. So a July 2020 paper published in the Journal of Economic Structures by Muhammad Masudur Rahman and co-authors make some fascinating points. Using econometric modeling, the authors conducted, now let's mark some important points here. Authors conducted a comparative analysis of the likely impact. Now they are studying the impact, okay, impact of tariff reduction and trade facilitation in a scenario of Indo-Pacific regional integration on various macroeconomic and trade variables. Okay, so it is kind of effect of Indo-Pacific regional integration, that what it will cause impact will be on tariff reduction and trade facilitation. Okay, so the modeling showed if Quad countries, so Quad countries are the countries involved in Indo-Pacific regional integration. Okay, the modeling showed if Quad countries were to sign a trade agreement where bilateral tariffs are scrapped, India's real GDP could increase by 0.2% or $5.7 billion. So this is the information. Now the question is that which of the following would strengthen the argument? Okay, which of the following would strengthen the argument? Now first we need to understand what is an argument. An argument means justifying yourself. Now, the best example is the courtroom or the parliament where any bill is passed. So, whenever some bill is passed, there is a discussion where all the persons are uh, justifying their point. Okay, that should this bill be passed or not? Okay, some people will be in favor and some will be against. Okay, so argument mainly means justifying yourself either in favor or in against. Okay, so let's see. So he wants that which information is in favor of the argument, because he is saying would strengthen the argument. Now would strengthen the argument above means he wants those points which are in the favor of this. Okay, like they are in the favor of quad countries to sign a trade agreement. Okay, so the first one says that while such an agreement would be advantageous for the other two partners as well, benefits would differ depending on the size of economy, the levels of tariff and non-tariff barriers. Now this is negative. Okay, this is definitely not in the favor of the paragraph, because this is creating a doubt about the things that we are planning to do in the paragraph. So it is not at all strengthening the argument. So the first one is wrong. Second one says if other nations or groupings like ASEAN were to join such a trade agreement and engage in reducing non-tariff barriers, the benefits for member countries could be exponentially higher. So just think it should be correct or not. Okay, if other nations, now here what he is saying, if other nations or groupings like ASEAN were to join such a trade agreement and engage in reducing non-tariff barriers, the benefits for member countries could be exponentially higher. Now just see one thing, if you are feeling doubtful for the second one, okay, if you are feeling doubtful for the second one, just see, is it negative? I cannot find anything negative here. I just cannot find any negative justification in the second part, in the second option. So I am just going to give it a hold, okay, and I am going to check the third one. Now third one says among quad nations, India needs investment, attractive financing for infrastructure technology and access to key raw materials, particularly rare earth elements. Now this is also negative. Third one is also negative. Okay, right, because it is putting India in the light of need. Okay, so third one is also justifying the argument in the paragraph. And now, although we were not confident about the second one, but just because first and third one is wrong, now we are sure that second is correct. Right, so this is what I was telling you, that you should solve it this way, because this is definitely going to help in a question that you are not able to relate. Okay, so here the answer here will be option number 2, option number 4, which says only 2. Okay, so now we have the next question, which is about assumption. Now here is the next question, which is related to assumptions. Now, how are our girls faring? In a large and diverse country, anecdotal evidence cuts several ways, but one hard, remorseless, empirical reality is son preference. Okay, that distressing social bias flourishes as against a, now this is about against a sustainable development goal. Now we have a sustainable development goal that we have to achieve, but all this is against that goal, okay, of achieving sex ratio at birth of 954 by 2030. Okay, by 2030 we want that there should be 954 girls in ratio to 1000 boys. Okay, but Niti Aayog update finds the national average still at a distant 899, which is very less. Okay, so we are not able to achieve the target. We are not able, although we have to achieve this target in 2030, but the results that we are seeing now are making us feel that it is hard to achieve. Okay, so this is what the information is. So, and we have the assumptions, right? We have three assumptions, so we have to check what could be the idea of the speaker before mentioning all this. Now, the first one is that offenders are unafraid of laws that prohibit sex selection in India. Now, this is possible, okay? Just because offenders are unafraid, they are not scared of law. Second one says sex determination and diagnosis at prenatal and preconception stage in India are not prohibited. So there is no reference about this in the information in the paragraph. Okay, that they are not prohibited. Actually, this suggests, now what is there in the paragraph, that government wants this, and if government want this, then government must have prohibited. Okay, so second one is the wrong one. Third, we have policy makers will have to come up with specific incentives, perhaps more attractive grants for bringing up daughters. See, for a social cause, we are never going to give any incentive, right? If they are going to bring up daughters, right? If we are going to grant, if we are going to give them attractive grants, so this is not acceptable for a social cause. Like blood donation, you are not getting paid for blood donation because that is also a social cause. Okay, so this should not be the case. This is not the logical thing. So we are left with just first one, that offenders are actually not scared. Even if our country have required laws, even then offenders are not afraid of those laws. So the first one is correct, and hence your option will be option number 1, which says only one. Okay, right. So now the next question that we have, climate activism is seen as just planting trees and engaging in cleanup drives. Now, climate activism. Now, what is climate activism? Now, there are some activists, right, who, wait, yeah. So, climate activism is seen as just planting. They feel that some activists, if they are coming forward, so they want us to plant trees and they want us to clean up some drives. Okay, so those are important, no doubt that is required, but that is not just required. Okay, those are important, but it's also about holding those in power accountable and asking if they will leave indigenous people and their land alone, leave the coal in the ground, leave the rivers unpoisoned, and leave the trees standing. Okay, so this is about the people who are accountable. Will they leave all this? Okay, so what should be the valid course of action? Here we have to solve the course of action. So what should be the valid course of action here? So first one says that climate activists should reach representatives, okay, at all levels of the government to raise the issue of environment due to their inactions, because it should be the government, okay, who should be working properly, okay, so that there should not be such climate change. But this is not happening. So if this is not happening, we should reach them, okay, and discuss with them, right, that this is what is happening due to their inaction. So the first one looks logical. Second says climate activists should sympathize with those who fuel our destruction. Now they are saying climate activists should sympathize with those who fuel our destruction. Now, is it solving the problem? Is sympathy going to solve the problem? Not at all. So the second one is definitely wrong, because this is not the solution. This is just the compromise. Okay, third one says climate activists should volunteer with local organizations to make changes related to climate. This is also true. Okay, so according to the problem, what we see that climate activists have to do something. So first and third course of action defines their valid action, and hence your answer here will be both 1 and 3 follows, that is option number 4. And with this, our session is over, and I hope your fear of critical reasoning could have gone by now, right? Because we have discussed the best approach. You should always minimize the options and always look for the best option instead of looking for the correct answer. Okay, so this should be your approach while solving critical reasoning. So we are going to come with more such sessions which are going to help you in your RBI Grade B examination. So if you have not subscribed to our channel, okay, Oliveboard regulatory exams, okay, so I request you to subscribe to our new regulatory YouTube channel and also download our regulatory app. If you are preparing for RBI, SEBI or Nabard exam or any other regulatory exam. So this was end of the session. Thank you so much, students. Going to meet in the next session. Goodbye. Take care.